Hi, I'm Reverend Wendy Craig-Purcell here at the Unity Center in San Diego. Thank you so much for watching today. If you'd like to support the work that we do here, please consider making a contribution. Go to our website. It's easy to do. Thank you in advance for that contribution.
Reverend Wendy presents a talk that explores and expresses the truths of unity, and that there are real-world practical things that we can do to deepen our experience of spirituality and help us in our daily lives.
So we have been exploring together over the last few weeks something that I'm calling spiritual sticking points. Spiritual sticking points. And to me, those are behaviors or beliefs or attitudes that result in an impasse in our spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment. We've looked at a sticking point. One of the sticking points we've looked at is the need to be right. We looked at the sticking point of the need to get even or to even the score. And today we're going to be looking at the sticking point of the need to look good. The need to look good. Say that with me, please. The need to look good. And it's really important that we remember that there is a difference between a need and a preference. I don't think any one of us prefers to not look good. Preference doesn't cause us challenges, but needs act an awful lot like demands or addictions, and that's where we find them to be sticking points. That's where they become an impasse for us, keeping us from growing and from developing. I was thinking about a very vivid experience in my own life of the need to look good, the strong desire to look good. You know, I grew up with the teaching or the statement, you never get a second chance to make a good first impression, right? So this was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I lose track of time now, much more than I used to. And it involved a trip that I was taking to Ecuador. I was part of a very small group of people that were joining the teacher and world changer Lynn Twist with the Pachamama Alliance, and we were going to Ecuador. And we were going to spend time deep in the Amazon jungle. We were going to be spending time being with and learning from one of the indigenous cultures there, the Achuar people. And so it was, I believe, the Monday right after Easter. So it was already a very full week of activities for me. And I was flying down to Quito. And my flight was delayed, and I didn't get in until very, very late, sometime in the wee hours of the morning, well after midnight. I was pretty exhausted, and I knew we were going to be hitting the ground running, but I could not fall asleep. And the harder I tried to fall asleep, the more I couldn't fall asleep. And it was probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning before I finally dozed off a little bit, knowing that I was going to need to get up at about 5:30 to be ready to meet everybody else in the group, as well as others from our spiritual community. And not only were we going to meet for breakfast and get oriented to the week's activities ahead, but we had to be packed and ready to go for the start of the rigorous jungle portion of the excursion. And guess what? My alarm did not go off. And I woke up with about 30 minutes to do everything. Pack my suitcase for the jungle, which was a different suitcase than the one that I had packed originally. Get myself looking good, or at least presentable, and get down to breakfast all in less than 30 minutes. I stumble into the bathroom, and there's no mirror. The outlet for the hair blower didn't work. And I'm going, okay, well, I do have a hat. You remember the hotel, don't you, Janet? But you got there before me. I did have a hat. I thought, okay, no worries. At least I can apply the makeup. And I can hide how bad I really look. Because this is probably the last time for a long time I'm going to be able to freshen up at all. Because all the other places we were going to save for the next several days, involved showers basically outside where you hollered for them to turn the water on with like a hose while you were standing on dirt ground. So am I painting an accurate enough picture as to why it was so important for me to at least start out looking good? So I pull out my trusty travel mirror, figuring, okay, there's no mirror in the bathroom, nothing's working, at least I have my trusty travel mirror. Never happened to me before, never happened to me since. Yes, Dorothy, it cracked in a bazillion pieces. When I opened it, they fell on the floor. And I looked and I said, all right, God, I think I have the message that I have got to drop any caring whatsoever what I look like as the minister of the Unity Center, helping to lead this group with Lynn through the jungle. This is about me taking a deep dive at looking in myself, because I knew I was drawn to that experience, to look deep into myself around some very painful issues that were going on at the time. I was so envious of the men. Every day, every morning, they looked just fine. We women, right, Janet? We did not look like we look on a Sunday morning. The need to look good. Did I paint a clear enough picture for you, right? The need to look good. We can all relate to that. We can all relate to that. The whole cosmetic industry is built around this strong need to look good. There's the outer need to look good that drives us to spend inordinate amounts, some people, inordinate amounts of money and time to present a certain appearance. Not only is there the need to look good externally, but there's another kind of need to look good. And it's what we might call saving face. Say that with me. Saving face. I remember on each of the 3 occasions that the Association for Global New Thought and I met with the Dalai Lama for almost a week on 3 different occasions, that in the deep dialogues we had with him, one of the topics was always his deep love and care about the Tibetan people and his fervent desire to help free Tibet. And so that was always part of the brainstorming and prayer and meditation. How could we work together to help bring that about? And I was so surprised at something he said in each and every meeting, that in order to free Tibet, the only way that would have a chance to ever happen would be that China would have to be able to save face in the process. That this Chinese culture was so wrapped up, so invested in looking good, such a part of their culture and society, that if in any way they were made to look bad, they would not be part of the conversation. The need to look good is also linked to that desire we have to save face, to be well thought of. One of my favorite stories involved a friend of mine. Her name is Sylvia. And when she was very young, one of her first jobs was in the Beverly Hills area. And she was invited to attend a very fancy party in a beautiful Beverly Hills mansion. It was a black tie event, and she was very excited to be invited and somewhat nervous because she'd not been in that kind of setting often before. And the waitress came around serving people wonderful hors d'oeuvres and so forth, and there was this platter of gorgeous, perfect jumbo shrimp. And Sylvia loved shrimp, and Sylvia took some of the shrimp, and she started to munch on it and mingle like you do at those kinds of parties, but she noticed that this shrimp was not like any shrimp she had had before. It was really tough. Very, very, very tough. Very hard for her to chew, very hard for her to swallow. But she proceeded, and a little while later, the waitress came back to take Sylvia's plate, and the waitress noticed that there were no shrimp tails on Sylvia's plate. And the waitress said, "Where are all of your shrimp tails?" And suddenly Sylvia realized what she had done, and she says, "Oh, I always eat my shrimp like that." Can you imagine what that felt like? And what was behind her words? The need to look good, saving face, absolutely, saving face. What motivates our need to look good? Fear of rejection, I'm hearing. What else? That's true. Ego. Pride. vanity, right? Wanting to be thought well of, wanting to avoid embarrassment or humiliation. And yet, when you think about it, the need to look good is such a sticking point because it keeps us, the older we get, the more it keeps us in this tight little compartment. We shy away from or we step back from new and different things because we're afraid that if we step forward and we do something new and different, we're not going to look good. And if I don't look good, you might not like me or approve of me, or I might feel badly, so I play it safe. You read my notes. So I play it safe. I came upon this quote or this statement, don't worry about being normal, be your own best self. Is that good? Don't worry about being normal, be your own best self. Let's say that together. Don't worry about being normal, be your own best self. What would it be like if every child from infancy on was encouraged with words like that, not just from mom and dad, but from every teacher, every counselor, every doctor, every friend, every adult. Don't worry about being normal, as if there is anything called normal. Be your own best self. Wouldn't that be freeing? Wouldn't that create a more diverse and rich and creative world? I think we are shortchanging ourselves individually and as a human family to the degree that we are not in touch with our individual uniqueness and authenticity, and to the degree that somehow we feel like we have to pull away from that. I am not saying that there is not room for growth and improvement for every single one of us, because there always is. That is absolutely part and parcel of what it is to be a spiritual being. It is to continue to grow. It is to continue to evolve, but to continue to grow and evolve along your own unique path, to continue to grow and evolve along the unique lines of the imprint of your soul. And you are not the same as the person sitting next to you. And we need you to be your best version of your authentic self. Your authentic self doesn't try to look good. It doesn't need to try to look good because it is already good. It is already good. You were born right the first time. No matter what anybody else has ever said to you, whether it was somebody in a religious garb or some person who didn't know any better, you were born right the first time. It is only truly hurting people who hurt other people. And until we get at the spiritual root of the world's problems, we're not going to heal them. We might temporarily alleviate some of the problems or the symptoms, but if we don't get at the root cause, those symptoms and those appearances are going to keep popping up. In a book that I have been using very lightly in this series, the author Edward Bear writes these words, and maybe you can relate to this idea. He writes, I came into this process without an identifiable self, no infrastructure. I was what people thought I was. I lived in other people's minds. I was a reflection of their opinions. And if you thought I was okay, I was okay. If everyone thought I was okay, then I was really okay. Can you relate to any of that? Probably. Again, it is very important that we tease apart the difference between the desire and the preference to look good or to do good and the need or the addiction to do it. One helps us reach for excellence. The desire, the preference to look good or to do well helps us reach for excellence. The need or the demand or the addiction to looking good keeps us stuck and small. Do you not enjoy something that is excellent? Do you not enjoy when Nathan and Janet and the Soul Notes Band or whoever is performing up here hits those notes and just, you feel it, don't you? And it moves you. There's a desire, they have a desire, and we have a desire for them, for excellence, for quality, to do well. But what also happens, and it usually happens in the beginning when somebody is a bit of a still novice, there's such a demand or an addiction to look good. I gotta do it. What happens when we operate that way? We get stuck. We become our own worst enemy. We are standing in our own way, right? We're blocking the flow of the creative energy and the uniqueness of who and what we really are. And so only we know whether we are tipping into or operating from I've got to, I'm addicted to looking good, my whole sense of self, my whole sense of worthiness is dependent upon how I look to you and how you receive me. Only we know if that's what's operating or if we're just having fun, striving for and preferring to be our own best selves. Can you see the difference and feel the difference there? So the need to look good, the addiction to looking good, gets in our way in some very, very limiting and very challenging ways. Gets in our way of doing and trying new things. I think that adults are much less likely to try something totally new than children are. And I believe part of the reason, maybe not all of it, but part of the reason is we don't want to look bad or foolish or silly, right? A child just does it because they might be interested. I want to try something that I haven't done before. I don't have any expectations that I'm going to do great the first time out. I have a friend, her name is Jean. She is, I think, she turned 55. I say I think because she's so young looking and so vibrant and so energetic. And I was so excited and so inspired by something that my friend Jean did. She decided that she wanted to learn how to play the violin. That is not an easy instrument. And it's not a particularly pretty instrument to listen to when someone's just learning how to do it. She wanted to learn how to play the violin, and she took it up just like a year or two before, maybe not just a year, before her 55th birthday. And she had a party and invited just a few of her key friends. And she said, my gift to you, I don't want you to give me anything, my gift to you is I am going to play Happy Birthday on my violin for you. I was so incredibly moved because I know that I would probably hold myself back. Now, I don't personally have a desire to play the violin, but I think that if I did, if I'm completely honest with myself, I might not have had the same lack of inhibition that I see in my friend Jean to at 55 pick up something and say, I'm going to, no matter what it sounds like, and she had to do 2 or 3 retakes as she's playing it for us. It made me love her even more. I know that what is true for me, and I believe it's true for you as well, the need to look good can keep us from trying and doing new things. If there's something that you've been feeling like you want to try or that's new, but you haven't, check in with yourself. Is the reason that you haven't, is it really because you don't have enough time? Is it really because you don't have the money? Or is it because, well, I don't think I can start at the top or even kind of in the middle, so I'm not going to try at all. But a little child, what? Child would say, hey, Mom, I want to try to play the violin. And we would just patiently listen to what that sounds like for the first number of years until it sounds beautiful, right? The need to look good gets in our way in another very important way, and that is it can keep us from asking for help when we need it. Because if I ask for help, you may look at me differently. If I ask for help, I'm going to look vulnerable. If I ask for help in the area that I'm asking you to help me in, you're going to see that I'm not quite as good at that as maybe I was pretending to be all along. If I ask for help in navigating a difficult relationship in my life, if I ask for help in learning how to do something, If I ask for help because I'm really struggling in an area of my life, you may think less of me. And yet, how else do we really grow if we are not willing to look at where we truly are in our life journey? And when we know that we've done the best that we can with the skill we have, out of the experiences we have, that we will reach out in a state of vulnerability and openness to another and say, you know what? I don't know how to do this. You know what? I need some help. I'm thinking of the brave conversations that I've been holding in my home for the last, maybe 3 months or so, as I've gathered together our Black and African American members in our community. And I've done this because I feel a strong personal desire to see if there is something that the Unity Center can do to deal with racism, and not just the black-white racism, but any kind of racism and hatred. And it has been a humbling and rich experience for me because I've been vulnerable. It's been easy for me to be vulnerable, to say to our Black members and our African American members, I don't know how to do this. I only know that I care. And I only know that I see that there are problems in our world, and some of them are deeply racial problems. Will you help me? Will you teach me? I'm usually up here where you perceive me in a role of teacher, and I am that to a certain extent. But I'm also a student to an equal extent. But to be a student, whether it is for me in the area of race or for you in some other area in your life, requires authenticity and vulnerability, right? It requires being able to say, I don't know how to do this, but I think you know, or I think you have part of it. Back again for a moment to our author, Edward Bear. He says, you see, it only works if we can somehow get over this terrible need to look good all the time and actually tell someone, some other person, at the risk of perhaps looking bad, maybe to a whole room full of other persons, about how we're not doing so terribly well at the moment, about some things that have happened that were not particularly joyful, that perhaps we have done some things that we are not especially proud of, and we need to share those things to bring them out into the light before they kill us. We need to share them to bring them out into the light so that we can begin to move through them and heal them. And so more than working from the outside in, ours is a spiritual practice and teaching that is all about working from the inside out. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be your best self. There's nothing wrong with preferring to do things well and to look good. It's only when we tie our sense of self to that outer that we will be limiting ourselves and shortchanging ourselves. So the invitation for us is to work on creating a life that feels good and authentic first on the inside. And let what feels right and holy and good and authentic on the inside be what gets projected out to the world around us. The most beautiful people I have met in my life are not always the people whose faces or bodies look beautiful by the standard that the world tells us this is what beauty looks like. The most beautiful people I have met are the people who are so on fire with who and what they are from the inside out, that are strong enough to be vulnerable and say, I don't know how, will you help me? And that have a heart enough to look at another and say, I can see your pain too, and while I may not be walking in your shoes, let me walk by your side and comfort and support you the best way I can. You and I, as I wrap this up, you and I are so truly incredibly blessed to be part of a spiritual community that really is committed to practicing a particular way of living and being, a particular way of being in support to one another. There will be times that you will be the strong one supporting the other, and there will be times that you will be the one needing to be supported. And we must pull apart and not be held captive to needing to always look good, always look strong, always look like we have it together, if and when we don't. want to close with some words from the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu. Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner. Think about that one for a moment. Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you. Namaste.
The Unity Center, spiritually progressive, socially responsive, radically inclusive. We have services on Sundays at 9 and 11. Many people enjoy Reverend Wendy's talks and meditations and aren't able to attend the Unity Center in person. If you're part of our extended family from around the world and would like to help support the Unity Center, please go to our website or download our free app, which offers even more ways to connect with the Unity Center. Namaste.